talk about Ward 4. None of us do anymore. Hospitals are full of ghost stories, whispered tales of restless spirits, but this isn't just a story. It's a haunting that clings to me, seeping into my dreams, turning every empty hallway into a threat. My name is Sarah, 29, a night shift nurse at St. Mary's with 8 years under my belt. I've seen plenty. Patients muttering to empty air, monitors glitching for no reason. But what happened in Ward 4 changed me forever. It made me fear silence, dread shadows lurking in corners, and most of all recoil at the sound of my own name in the dark. Ward 4 was shut down 2 years ago. The administration blamed budget cuts, but we night shifters knew better. It all started with Mr. Harlan's death. He was 62, a wiry man with silver hair and a frail smile that tugged at my heart. Admitted for heart surgery, he was stable, his chart clear for discharge. No one expected him to flatline at 3:15 a.m. when the night was at its blackest. I'll never forget that moment. The alarm from his room pierced the quiet, jolting me from my paperwork. I sprinted to room 412, my heart pounding. The code team followed, but when we entered, a chilling dread washed over me. Mr. Harlan lay there, eyes wide, staring at the ceiling. His mouth hung open, frozen mid-scream. The monitor beeped, showing a flat line, yet his body wasn't cold. His skin was hot, feverish, as if something was still inside, clinging to life. I touched his hand, and a shock ran through me. Something was wrong. Unnaturally, impossibly wrong. We tried to revive him, but it was no use. Mr. Harlan was gone. We noted the time of death, draped a white sheet over him, and left. But as the door to room 412 closed, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. His eyes, though shut, seemed to follow me from somewhere beyond. In the days that followed, Ward 4 changed. It started subtly, things you'd dismiss if you weren't paying attention. The call light in room 409 flickered at midnight, though the room was empty. The familiar antiseptic smell now carried a metallic tang, like blood lingering in the air. I smelled it in the halls, the break room, even my dreams. Patients in nearby rooms complained of a man by the window. A tall, silver-haired figure standing still, staring out through closed blinds. But when we checked, the windows were locked, the blinds undisturbed. I tried to rationalize it. Old hospitals have faulty wiring and post-op patients often hallucinate. But then Mike, a tough-as-nails security guard with a decade at St. Mary's, quit. After reviewing Ward 4's camera footage one night, he showed up at our break room pale as death, muttering about eyes in the dark. He refused to elaborate, grabbed his things, and left without his final paycheck. I asked what he saw, but he just stared at me, eyes wild, and said, "Don't ever watch that tape, Sarah." Curiosity gnawed at me. I knew I shouldn't, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger each shift. It wasn't just unseen eyes, it was a heaviness like Ward 4's air was trying to choke me. One night I checked the cameras. In the security room, my hands trembled as I rewound to the night Mr. Harlan died. The screen flickered with static, then cleared. Room 412, his bed, the white sheet covering his body. But then the sheet moved. Not from wind, the windows were sealed, the AC off. It slid down and a figure sat up. My heart stopped. The figure was tall, gaunt, its head jerking unnaturally like a broken puppet. The monitor beside the bed lit up, showing a steady pulse, 72 beats per minute. But there was no one there, no wires, no patient. The figure turned to the camera and I swear it smiled, a distorted, inhuman grin too wide, like it was carved into a faceless void. I yanked the monitor's plug, my pulse hammering. The security room turned ice cold, my breath misting in the air. I ran, not daring to look back. But from that night, things got worse. At 2:37 a.m. during another shift, I was charting at the nurse's station. The hallway was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Suddenly, the intercom crackled and a voice, faint like wind through a cracked window, whispered, "Sarah." I froze, the pen slipping from my fingers. I glanced at Jenna, my co-worker, but she was engrossed in her phone, earbuds in. The voice came again, sharper. "Sarah, you let me die." My blood turned to ice. I stood, legs shaking, and approached the intercom panel. "Who's this? This is Sarah, who's on the line?" I pressed the button, my voice wavering. Silence. Then the intercom hissed again, and I heard it, not my name, but a wet, labored breathing like someone choking on blood. I slammed the off button, but the breathing didn't stop. It echoed from the hallway, from Ward 4, where the doors had been locked for months. I peered through Ward 4's frosted glass door. A shadow moved, tall, skeletal, unnatural, gliding across the pane before vanishing. I stumbled back, hands trembling, knocking over my coffee. Jenna yanked out an earbud, asking if I was okay, but I couldn't speak. I knew that thing, whatever it was, had called my name. I didn't sleep that night. At home, I locked my bedroom door, checked it twice, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mr. Harlan's wide, staring eyes watching from the dark. I tried to keep working, but Ward 4 wouldn't let me go. Doors creaked at night, though no one was there. The blood-like smell grew stronger, clinging to my hair, my clothes. Once I found a child-sized handprint on room 412's door, though no kids were in the hospital. The breaking point came when I faced my fear. I grabbed a spare key, unlocked Ward 4's door, though every instinct screamed to run. The hallway was pitch black, the fluorescent lights flickering. I entered room 412, where Mr. Harlan died. The bed was empty, but the sheet was crumpled as if someone had just lain there. Whispers filled the air, wordless, like dozens of voices overlapping. Then from the corner, a figure appeared. It wasn't Mr. Harlan, it was something else, tall, faceless, but I felt its gaze piercing me. It didn't walk. It glided, floating toward me. I screamed, backing out, and tripped into the hallway. The door slammed shut, locking itself, though I hadn't touched it. I put in my resignation the next day. Ward 4 was sealed a week later, but it didn't stop. Sometimes, passing the main hallway at night, I hear that wet breathing, the intercom crackling my name. And sometimes, just sometimes, I see a figure at the hall's end, tall, silver-haired, motionless, watching. I never look back. I don't dare. But deep down, I know it's still there in Ward 4, waiting. It doesn't want peace. It doesn't want to be forgotten. It wants me. And someday, I'm terrified it'll find me. I never believed in ghosts. I'm a practical person, always looking for logical answers. But after what happened to Emma, I'm not so sure anymore. My name is Rachel, 32, a night shift nurse at St. Joseph's with a decade of experience. I know every creak of this old hospital, every hum of its machines, every ghost story whispered in the break room. But Emma's story isn't one to tell for laughs. It's a haunting mystery that's left a scar on my soul. A warning that some places in this hospital, dark corners, locked rooms, are better left alone. Emma was my co-worker, 26, a young nurse bursting with energy. With her golden hair and radiant smile, she lit up the gloomiest shifts. She volunteered for night shifts, the ones we all dreaded. "I love the quiet," she'd say, her eyes sparkling. "It's a challenge, and I'm all about challenges." We adored Emma. She was the colleague you wanted by your side during endless shifts, cracking jokes to ease tension or listening patiently through sleepless nights. But then, something changed. Emma started fading, like her light was being snuffed out, and none of us noticed until it was too late. It began with small things easy to overlook. Emma's skin, once rosy, turned pale, almost translucent, like her blood was draining away. Her eyes, once vibrant, sank into dark, hollow pits. Her voice lost its warmth, becoming distant, as if echoing from another world. She spoke less, often staring into space like she was listening to something we couldn't hear. One night around 1:45 a.m., the hospital's hallways glowed faintly under flickering fluorescence. Emma had finished her rounds, but she moved slowly, dragging her feet like they were weighed down. I called out, "Emma, you okay?" She turned, giving me a hollow smile that wasn't hers. Her eyes looked through me as if I wasn't there. A chill ran down my spine, and I knew, though I couldn't explain it, something was deeply wrong. From that night, it got worse. Emma started making mistakes, missing meds, charting wrong vitals, even ignoring a patient in pain. "I'm sorry, Rachel," she whispered when I pointed it out, her voice trembling like she was hiding something terrible. She arrived earlier, stayed later, as if the night shift was all that kept her alive. I worried, but when I asked, she brushed me off, her eyes avoiding mine. "I'm fine," she said, but I knew she was lying. Then I noticed Emma was going somewhere in the hospital at odd hours. She'd slip away from the main ward, descending the stairs to the basement. If you've worked at St. Joseph's, you know the basement is a place to avoid. It's a maze of old corridors, locked rooms, and dusty corners rumored to hold dark secrets. Illegal experiments, patients who vanished. Most of us steered clear, but Emma was drawn to it like it was calling her name. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I followed her, keeping my distance. She glided down the stairs, her frail figure almost blending into the shadows. The air grew cold, my breath misting. Her footsteps echoed slow and deliberate like she was searching. When she disappeared into a dark hallway, I froze, my heart pounding. I wanted to call out, but something in the air, heavy, oppressive, silenced me. Summoning courage, I followed. The basement reeked of mold and metal like dried blood. I found Emma in an old room, its door ajar. She stood motionless, staring at the wall. Strange symbols were scrawled there in what looked like blood, chaotic yet deliberate, like an ancient ritual. Half-burned candles littered the floor, their flames casting dancing shadows. Emma whispered, her voice low and rhythmic like a chant. I couldn't make out the words, but they made my skin crawl. "Emma," I called, my voice shaking. She turned, and for a moment I swear it wasn't her. Her eyes were black, no pupils, no light. She smiled, a twisted, unnatural grin. "It's here, Rachel," she said, her voice icy. "The truth, it's waiting." Before I could react, she stepped toward me, and I backed away, my heart racing. I ran up the stairs, not daring to look back, feeling something chasing me, breathing down my neck. The next morning, Emma was gone, no trace. Her locker was empty, her uniform hung neatly in the corner like she'd never existed. No one saw her leave, no cameras caught her exiting. She'd vanished into thin air. At first I told myself she needed a break, that she'd return with her bright smile and an apology, but deep down I knew the truth. Emma didn't leave. She never left. Then the strange thing started. I heard footsteps at night, slow and steady, like old nurse shoes on linoleum. I'd turn, but the hallway was empty. Other nurses heard it too. Creaking doors, soft knocks from locked rooms. But what kept me awake was the lullaby. An old, eerie tune like something from a forgotten era. I recognized it instantly, Emma's lullaby, the one she hummed when she thought no one was listening. Now it floated through the air, burrowing into my mind, chilling me to the bone. I started feeling her, not the Emma I knew, but something wearing her shape. During night shifts, I sensed her behind me, watching. Once, while charting at the nurse's station, a cold breath grazed my neck. I spun around, but no one was there. In the hallway's darkness, I swear I saw a figure, slender, blonde, in a nurse's uniform. It didn't move. It just watched. Other nurses whispered about Emma's ghost. They laughed, but their eyes betrayed fear. One night I found a note in my uniform pocket, scrawled in red ink. "Stay out of the basement." The handwriting was Emma's. I tore it up, my heart pounding, but I couldn't shake the feeling she was warning me or threatening me. I investigated, digging through old hospital records. Decades ago, the basement was used to confine dangerous psychiatric patients. Some died there, unrecorded. Rumors spoke of rituals to contain angry spirits, not banish them, trapping them in the walls, forever hungry. I knew Emma had found something in the basement, a truth she couldn't bear. It took her light, made her part of it. I haven't dared go down there, but every night passing the basement stairs, I feel it calling, not with words, but a pull, whispering in my mind, "Come." See, I resist, but I don't know how long I can hold out. Now every shift is a fight. I hear Emma's lullaby, feel her breath on my neck. Sometimes in the break room mirror, I see her behind me, black eyes, twisted smile. I don't tell anyone. They'd think I'm crazy, but I know the truth. Emma's still here, in the basement, the walls, the dark, and I'm terrified that one day she'll come for me, dragging me down to see what she saw. If you work at St. Joseph's, heed my warning. Stay out of the basement. Don't linger in the dark too long. Something's waiting. And it took Emma. It won't stop until it has us all. I never thought I'd fear a room. I'm a rational person, always scoffing at the ghost stories my co-workers shared in the break room. But after what I found in the storage room, I'm not myself anymore. My name is Hannah, 34, a night shift nurse at Mercy General with 12 years of experience. I know every inch of this ancient hospital. Its stifling hallways, its humming machines, its shadowed corners. I thought I'd seen it all. Patients talking to thin air, lights flickering for no reason. But the storage room at the end of hallway C changed everything. It taught me that some secrets are better left buried and some doors, once opened, never truly close. Mercy General is a relic, with corridors that feel suffocating and rooms abandoned decades ago. We call these places forbidden zones, Corners even light seems to avoid. The storage room at the end of hallway C is one of them. It's a repository for outdated medical equipment, dusty files, and relics of a time no one talks about. I avoided it, not out of fear, but because it was too grim, too silent. But that night I had no choice. It was a routine shift around 1:30 a.m. Hallway C was deserted. The only sounds the buzz of fluorescent lights and the rhythmic breathing of patients on ventilators. I was tasked with checking the storage room for supplies, a simple job I'd done countless times. But this time something felt off. As I approached the end of the hallway, the air grew heavy like I was passing through an invisible curtain. The storage room door was ajar, just a crack, letting a thin sliver of hallway light spill onto the floor. I stopped, my heart beating faster than it should. That door was never left open. Staff are too busy, but the rule is to lock it to prevent theft. I told myself someone forgot, but a gnawing unease took root. It wasn't fear, not yet, but a strange curiosity, like the room was whispering, beckoning me inside. I took a deep breath, pushed the door open, and stepped into the dark. Inside was what I expected. Shelves of old equipment, broken carts, stacked supply boxes. The air smelled of dust and metal, making me cough. The room's single bulb flickered, casting warped shadows on the walls. I started checking shelves, eager to finish and leave. But then I saw it. In the middle of the floor, amid the clutter, a circle of strange symbols. They were unlike anything I'd seen. Chaotic lines drawn in a dark red crusted substance that looked like blood. Each symbol was deliberate, as if the artist knew exactly what they were doing. Scattered around the circle were half-burned candles, wax pooled on the floor. The flickering bulb made the symbols seem to writhe, alive. My heart pounded, but I couldn't look away. Something in that room, a dark allure, drew me closer. I stepped forward, though every instinct screamed to run. The air turned frigid, my breath misting. I heard whispers faint like wind through a cracked door, but wordless. I knelt, touching a symbol. It was dry but sticky, as if drawn hours ago. A jolt shot through my fingers, and I yanked my hand back, my pulse racing. That's when I realized I wasn't alone. From the room's corner in the shadows came a sound, a soft tap, like nails on wood. I turned, but saw nothing but darkness. "Anyone there?" I called, my voice trembling. No answer, but the tapping grew faster, rhythmic like a heartbeat. I stood, backing away, and tripped over something on the floor. It was a journal, old, its leather cover worn, tucked behind a pile of equipment. I picked it up, hands shaking. Inside were yellowed pages, the ink faded but legible. It was a diary written by someone who worked at Mercy General long before my time. The author didn't sign their name, but their words were steeped in fear. Early entries described daily work, but as I read on, they grew strange. The writer spoke of spirits that wouldn't rest, entities trapped by ancient rituals. They weren't banished, but bound. Within the walls, the floors, the hospital's very foundation. My heart raced as I turned the pages. The journal detailed rituals performed in the basement and storage rooms, using blood and symbols to chain the spirits. But the rituals were flawed. The spirits didn't sleep. They were hungry, always seeking someone to pull into their world. The writer warned, they want to be seen. They want to be remembered, and once you see them, you're never free. I didn't want to keep reading, but I couldn't stop. Each word was a thread pulling me deeper into the room's secret. The air grew suffocating, like the room was closing in. The whispers returned clearer, calling my name. Hannah. The voice wasn't human, low, rasping like it came from beneath the earth. I slammed the journal shut, but the whispers didn't stop. They were everywhere, seeping into my ears, my mind. I turned, and this time I saw it. A figure stood in the corner, tall, gaunt, faceless. It didn't move, but I felt its gaze piercing my soul. I screamed, dropping the journal, and ran for the door. But when I grabbed the handle, it wouldn't budge, like something was holding it from the other side. I pounded, yelling, but no one heard. The hallway outside was silent, as if the hospital had vanished. The tapping resumed, now right behind me. I turned, and the figure was gone. But the symbols on the floor glowed red like fresh blood. The candles flared, though no one lit them. An invisible hand touched my shoulder, cold as ice. I screamed, kicking the door, and finally it gave way. I stumbled into the hallway, my heart pounding, my breath ragged. I ran to the nurses' station, not daring to look back. When I told my co-workers, they stared like I was unhinged. "You're just tired, Hannah," they said. But I knew what I saw. I knew what I felt, and it didn't stop there. In the days that followed, I changed. Lights flickered when I passed. Doors creaked at night, though no breeze stirred. Whispers called my name, sometimes from the intercom, sometimes from the air. I started dreaming of the storage room, the symbols crawling across the walls, the figure standing behind me, whispering words I couldn't grasp. I'd wake in a cold sweat, convincing myself it was just a dream. I searched for the journal, but it was gone. I asked co-workers, but no one knew of it. One suggested checking the basement where old records were kept. Just the thought made me shudder. I'd heard enough about that place, missing patients, screams from below. I knew if I went down there, I wouldn't come back. Now every shift is a struggle. The storage room calls to me, whispering through the walls. Sometimes passing hallway C, I see the door ajar, though I swear it was locked. Once I found a small symbol in red ink on the nurse's station, identical to those in the room. I scrubbed it off, but I know it'll return. I don't tell anyone anymore. They wouldn't believe me. But I know the truth. Something's in the storage room, the basement, this hospital. It doesn't want peace. It wants me. And it won't stop until I step into that circle, letting the symbols consume me. If you work at Mercy General, listen to me. Don't open locked doors. Don't linger in the dark. Something's waiting, and once you see it, you're marked forever. I never thought I'd be afraid of the place where I work. The hospital was my second home, a place where I saved lives, where I found purpose. But after that night in room 308, I'll never look at Mercy General the same way again. My name is Lauren, 27 years old, a night shift nurse with 5 years of experience. I was used to the cold hallways, the beeping of heart monitors, and the ghost stories other nurses told to pass the time. I used to laugh them off, chalking them up to overactive imaginations during long, grueling shifts. But what happened in room 308 wasn't a story to laugh about. It was a living nightmare, a mystery that keeps me awake at night. And a reminder that there are things in this hospital that don't belong to our world. Mercy General is an old hospital with sprawling hallways and areas that feel almost abandoned. The third floor where I worked was one of the quietest at night. Most of the patients there were post-op, recovering before discharge. It wasn't a bustling place like the ER or ICU, but it had an eerie stillness, as if the air itself was holding its breath. I often worked alone, my only companions the steady beeps of machines and the distant shuffle of janitors' footsteps. That night, around 2:30 a.m., I was reviewing charts at the nurses' station. The hallway was empty, the fluorescent lights flickering faintly, casting distorted shadows on the walls. I was scribbling notes when I heard it. A soft sound, almost imperceptible, like fabric brushing against the wall. I looked up, expecting to see a patient wandering, but the corridor was deserted. Just darkness stretching out and a creeping unease settling into my bones. I told myself it was just my tired mind playing tricks, but deep down I knew something was wrong. A few minutes later, the heart monitor in room 308 blared, shattering the silence. My heart lurched. I ran to the room, bracing for an emergency. But when I flung the door open, I froze. The bed was empty. The sheets were neatly tucked, the IV drip hanging untouched. I checked the chart on the clipboard. Margaret Evans, 58, post-op from heart surgery, scheduled for discharge in 3 days. There was no sign she'd left the room. I stepped into the hallway, scanning the dim corridor. The security cameras near the exit showed no movement. No one had left the 3rd floor. A cold draft brushed the back of my neck like someone had exhaled right behind me. I spun around, but there was nothing. Just the empty nurses' station and the flickering light above. Then I heard it. A whisper, soft as a breath, drawn out. Shh. It came from room 308. My heart pounded, but I'm a nurse. I'm not supposed to be afraid. I stepped back into the room, gripping my flashlight tightly, even though the room's lights were still on. I checked the room, but nothing was out of place. Then I noticed the bathroom door slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness breaking the sterile white of the walls. I knew better than to check, but my feet moved anyway. I nudged the door open, my breath coming in shallow gasps. The bathroom was empty, but the mirror above the sink stopped me cold. In the reflection, standing right behind me, was a woman. She wore an old faded hospital gown, her face gaunt, her eyes like twin pits of endless black. Her mouth moved as if speaking, but no sound came. I whipped around, my heart racing, but no one was there. The room was still. I looked back at the mirror, and she was still there, closer now, her black eyes boring into me. I stumbled backward, my heel catching on the bed's edge, and the air in the room grew thick, pressing against my skin like a damp cloth. The heart monitor beside the bed flickered, then shut off completely. The overhead lights dimmed, the electric hum stretching into a high-pitched whine. The bed jerked, its wheels screeching against the tile as if something unseen had shoved it forward. I screamed, backing toward the door, but my feet felt rooted to the floor. I sensed it, a presence, invisible but overwhelming, crushing my chest. The air crackled with something unseen, circling me, whispering words I couldn't understand. With every ounce of strength, I bolted, nearly tripping as I stumbled into the hallway. I clutched the nurse's station counter to steady myself, gasping for air, but then I heard it. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, shuffling across the linoleum behind me. I turned, but the hallway was empty, just closed doors and darkness at the far end. But I knew I wasn't alone. I felt eyes unseen but piercing, drilling into my back. I ran toward the stairwell, avoiding the elevator. It felt too confining, too dangerous. I shoved the stairwell door open, nearly collapsing against the railing, my hands shaking as I fumbled for my phone to call security. The call wouldn't connect, just static, then a whisper, not from the phone, but from behind me. "Lauren." I turned slowly, the stairwell door still swinging from my entry, but through the narrow gap I saw a face. It was indistinct, but those black eyes were unmistakable. I screamed, racing down the stairs, past the second floor, straight to the main lobby. The night security guard, Frank, looked up, startled. "You okay?" he asked, eyeing me like I'd seen a ghost. "There's someone on the third floor," I gasped. "Room 308, a woman, I saw her." Frank's face darkened. "The third floor's been empty for a month," he said. "They're renovating. There's no room 308. I shook my head, unable to believe it. "No, I was just there. I work there." He turned his monitor toward me. The footage from the third floor showed an empty hallway. No sign of me running, no open doors, no life. The nurse's station appeared, my papers scattered on the desk, but the chair I'd been sitting in minutes ago was empty. The feed jumped, static flaring, and for one brief frame I saw her. A woman in a hospital gown standing at the end of the hall, staring at the camera. I didn't go home that night. I sat in the break room, clutching a cold coffee, trying to make sense of it all. When I finally got home, I locked my bedroom door, checked it twice, but sleep wouldn't come. When I woke, my phone buzzed with a voicemail from the hospital's number. I pressed play, my heart pounding. A whisper crackled through. "Nurse." Then silence. I called back, but the line was dead. I tried again, but there was no signal, as if the call had never existed. I haven't been the same since. I avoid the third floor, but the feeling of being watched doesn't go away. I hear whispers at night, sometimes from the intercom, sometimes from the air itself. Once in the staff bathroom, I looked in the mirror and saw her behind me. Closer than ever, her mouth moving as if calling my name. I screamed, dropping a soap bottle, and when I looked again, she was gone. I dug into the hospital's records, desperate for answers. I found that decades ago, the third floor was a psychiatric ward. Some patients died there under uncertain circumstances. There were rumors of a female patient who vanished after surgery, her body never found. I don't know who she was, but I know she wants me to see her. She wants me to remember. Now every night shift is a battle. I feel her everywhere, in the shadows, in mirrors, in the whispers echoing through the halls. Sometimes I find small handprints on room 308's door, though it's been locked. I don't tell anyone. They'd think I'm crazy, but I know the truth. Something's in room 308 on the third floor in this hospital. It doesn't want peace. It wants me. And it won't stop until I face it. If you work at Mercy General, heed my warning. Stay off the third floor. Don't look in mirrors too long. Because something's waiting, and once you see it, it'll never let you go. I never believed in the supernatural. I'm a practical guy, always looking for the rational explanation. But after what happened in the old wing of St. Anthony's, I'm not so sure anymore. My name is Jake, 24, and back then I was a night porter at the hospital, working odd jobs to pay for college. It wasn't glamorous, but the pay was steady. and the quiet nights gave me time to study. I thought I could handle anything until I stepped into the old wing. That place taught me that some doors are locked for a reason and some secrets are better left buried. St. Anthony's is a massive aging hospital, bustling by day but eerily still at night. My job was simple: transport equipment, check on patients, make rounds. Most shifts were uneventful, just the hum of ventilators and the occasional groan of old pipes. But everyone talked about the old wing, a section closed off for years. Officially, it was due to structural issues, but the way people lowered their voices when mentioning it suggested more. Nurses warned me to steer clear, but I brushed it off as superstition. I wish I'd listened. One night I was assigned to fetch equipment from a storage room just past the old wing's locked doors. It meant passing through its long, dim corridor. The nurse's warnings echoed in my head, but it seemed harmless. Just an empty, forgotten part of the hospital. I grabbed my cart and headed down, the air growing colder with each step. St. Anthony's always had chilly spots, but this was different, like stepping into a freezer. The corridor was silent, the kind of silence that presses against your ears, making every sound louder. I passed old rooms, their doors dusty, some slightly ajar, others sealed with faded caution tape. The fluorescent lights buzzed weakly, casting long shadows. I reached the storage room at the corridor's end, but as I opened the door, I heard something, a low hum like a distant machine. I dismissed it as old pipes, but then it came again, louder, rhythmic, like tapping. I froze, my hand on the doorknob, straining to listen. It was coming from a nearby room. Curiosity got the better of me. I approached the closest room, its door cracked open just enough to peer inside. The hallway's light barely reached in, but I made out a bed with faded linens, a chair, and a table with old medical supplies. I don't know why, but I pushed the door open. The air inside was heavy, like the room was holding its breath. On the far wall, I saw something that stopped my heart. Symbols crudely drawn in what looked like blood, arranged in a circle around a small chair like a ritual setup. I stepped closer, my mind racing. The symbols were strange, unsettling, unlike anything I'd seen. The tapping resumed, now from the room's corner. I spun around, but no one was there. The temperature plummeted, my breath visible in the air. My instincts screamed to leave, but before I could, I heard a voice. A low, whispering voice right behind me. "You shouldn't be here." I froze, my blood turning to ice. I turned slowly, but the room was empty. The voice came again, clearer. "Leave now." I didn't need more convincing. I bolted, my hands shaking as I grabbed the equipment from the storage room. But as I turned back to the corridor, something was wrong. The silence was gone. The tapping was everywhere, coming from every room like something was following me, knocking on the doors, calling my name. I hurried down the corridor, but the tapping grew louder, more insistent, like a swarm closing in. The walls seemed to narrow, the air thickening, suffocating me. I reached the elevator, slamming the button, my hands trembling. The doors opened and I stepped inside, relief washing over me. But as the doors began to close, I heard it again, a faint whisper. "Don't leave yet." The doors slammed shut. I jabbed the button for the main floor, trying to calm my racing heart. In the elevator's reflective doors, I saw something that made my stomach drop. A figure at the corridor's end, watching me. I didn't look back. When the elevator reached the lobby, I stumbled out, nearly tripping, and didn't stop until I was outside, gulping the cool night air. Even then, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me. The old wing's doors were locked again the next day, and I never went back. But every time I pass that hallway, I feel it, eyes watching, waiting just beyond the door. I found out later that the old wing was once a ward for terminally ill patients, many of whom died there under strange circumstances. Some say rituals were performed to keep their spirits at bay, but they only trapped them, hungry for company. I don't work at St. Anthony's anymore, but I still hear the tapping in my dreams, feel that cold breath on my neck. I know something's still there in the old wing, waiting for me to return. And I'm terrified that one day it'll find a way out. If you work at St. Anthony's, listen to me. Stay out of the old wing. Don't open those doors. Something's waiting, and once it sees you, it'll never let you go.